you doing? So I haven't been to the log cabin in like 150 years, so congratulations on the save. I know that it was, while I was there was a couple of events and things that I did, and I know it's important to our community as well. So that's a good save, and thank you for reaching out. I think Patrick, somebody who had the 213 number that sent me all the instructions, thank you for asking me as well. But I know Patrick and Kevin were a big part of getting me down to do this. And so let's see. You know, when I was sitting in meditation on this, it's like, you know, we saved the log cabin, you know, all of that kind of stuff. So what really should our angle be on this? And, you know, the only word that came to me was celebration. And I think we all have something to celebrate every day, no matter what the conditions are. So I think that's where we'll be coming from as far as my inspiration for this talk is. Now, how long do I go and what's the format? Because I was not really instructed, Jackie. What's going on here?
Okay, I apologize for that.
That's okay.
You have...
Because you don't want me to guess, that's for sure. Because you'll all be here till Monday. And it'll turn into a workshop that's really boring. And hi, KK.
I don't think there'll be anything boring about it, but... You have 40 minutes.
Okay.
Do you want,
good.
Do you want a time?
Questions and answers? Are we done after that, or what's the deal?
We are done after that.
Okay, so it's just a straight speaker pitch. That's good. Okay. Kansas City Carol was super early. I love her. She was giving all kinds of information out, and so super excited to be here. Super excited to be sober. And yeah, I think that, especially in this time, that we need to, you know, really band together and be grateful for the celebration of our lives. I mean, think about it. Think about what it would be. Is that, let's see, there's 110 people on here. Let's just, for ha-ha's sake, say, what if we were all drinking right now? You know what I mean? What would quarantine, what would this look like? You know what I mean? Because I know we wouldn't be compliant, and I know we wouldn't be staying in the house, and I know we would probably have a lot more diseases than, you know, Corona. So, yeah. You know, one of the things that sticks out to me, and I feel like I have a tremendous responsibility to carry the message in Alcoholics Anonymous, because everything that's been done for me. But one of the things that's been really, really on my soul lately is the externalization of the spiritual process of recovery. You know, we go to meetings all the time, and the format is very clear in the book that says, you know, our stories disclose what we used to be like, what happened, and what we are like now. What we are. Our stories are supposed to demonstrate the entire psychic change that's necessary for recovery from alcoholism. And a lot of meetings that I go to now, it's externalized. If I have a house, if I have somebody to sleep with at night, if I have a car, oh my God, I'm doing really well. My sponsor tells me everything to do. Meetings are everything. And I am afraid for those people and the future of Alcoholics Anonymous, because I spent 6.5 years in an externalized, action-based program that was not concerned with the spiritual aspect of the steps. And I suffered greatly. I was a dry drunk without booze, okay? And so 6.5 years of sobriety, I was a broken person in one of the biggest groups in LA with one of the biggest sponsors in LA. And I was so dry, you should have labeled me a fire hazard. I could have gone up in smoke in any moment. And you know, when I sat down with the people who had done this recovery out of this book, they sat down and, you know, they really weren't concerned with my opinion or how I felt. So they took me to page 52. And if you have your book out, you know, it's a really good place to start. If you're new in recovery and uncomfortable, there's a reason for that. If you're old in recovery and you're uncomfortable, there's a reason for that. And it's called the bedevilments. You know what I mean? And when I sat down with somebody who was spiritually awakened as a result of this work, guess what happened? I found out why I was this way. And unfortunately, it wasn't my mother, because we could have just gotten rid of her and that would have been the end of the story. You know what I mean? If my family was the reason I was the way I was, I moved away from them as soon as possible. So that, I left that pile behind and I ran in the other direction, which is a normal habit I found out in inventory. But, if that was really my problem, that was the cause, that would have solved the problem. And I was never open and awake enough to see that until I sat down with somebody and I did this process. So if you're uncomfortable in Alcoholics Anonymous, if you're uncomfortable, let's take a look at where you're at, because it's super simple. So when Brian sat down with me, and just a little rundown, because I don't go into a big drunk-a-log. When I came in here in 1987, I was getting court-martialed out of the Marine Corps. I was in the psychiatric ward of the rehab that I had just graduated from 8 months before. I had 4 suicide attempts under my belt. I was 110 pounds and yellow. And if that doesn't clearly demonstrate to you the phenomenon of craving and that I belong here, well, you know what? Call me someday and I'll go through all the funny stories and the falling downstairs and the car accidents and all of that. But the fact of the matter is that based on my experience and based on my ability to sit down with somebody else who has done this work, I have the physical craving. I have the mental obsession. I don't know where it came from. I don't know why I have it. I'm just really super grateful that I have a solution. We were watching the original Star is Born, because I guess that's what you do when you're bored as hell. And, if anybody remembers that film, he went to court, as this amazing star that he was, and he was driving around and had been drinking for days. And the judge said, "You're just disgusting," and ordered him to jail for 90 days, right? I mean, I sometimes think that I take for granted, because I don't look at the past on what used to happen to people like us, right? Mm-hmm. We used to just be regarded as degenerates and screw-ups and basically thrown away or taken care of by relatives until one day we just ended up dead if we weren't altogether tossed away, and on the streets. So there's a lot to celebrate. So if you're uncomfortable, which is a common state with us, page 52 was very helpful to me. I sat down with Brian, and he was the first one who qualified me as an alcoholic, not by his qualification, but by asking me some questions of my own so that I could finally answer my own questions. Because I don't know about any of you, but I'll say yes to anything to get out of an uncomfortable situation. I had nowhere to go when I was 20 years old. They brought me to Alcoholics Anonymous. All I had to do was raise my hand and say I was an alcoholic, and I got cookies and coffee, and people were nice to me. And I'm like, that's a good deal. But I never really questioned whether I was or not. You know what I mean? So the first thing that Brian and I did was we sat down and we looked at my experience with alcohol. And let me tell you, it was there. So we sat down and we looked at, what is my behavior completely sober? When you take away the drugs and the alcohol, when you take away that, what is it? And you know what? When I went through this page, when I went through these bedevilments, you know what I mean? The first one on page 52, it says we had to ask ourselves why we shouldn't apply to our human problems the same readiness to change our point of view. 1, we were having trouble with personal relationships. Well, I said no to that because I didn't really have any by that time. I was perfectly sober. The only people in my life were people that I was trying to sponsor, and I yelled at them and bossed them around and, really used the position of sponsorship, not as a guide, but more as a bully to make myself look like I was, really having an experience that I wasn't having at all. And some of that behavior was encouraged in the group that I was in. So I thought I was doing super good. But as far as intimate relationships with my family, had I repaired any of the damage that I had done? Absolutely not. So my personal relationships were totally in the toilet, totally in trouble. And the second thing was, the second question was we couldn't control our emotional natures. And that was evident. I mean, I had a 2-hour waiter job in downtown LA, and I had already broken one of the knuckles on my right hand on the face of a fellow employee. I could not contain my rage. I could not contain my selfishness. I could not contain my self-pity. I could not contain any of that. My emotional nature was that of one that could explode at any minute. And what I didn't know about alcoholism is it was collective, so that my mind collects fears and resentments, and I've got all of this selfish and inappropriate sex conduct because I use anything that, God gives me as a gift, basically as a weapon to get what I want. And I didn't know that I was internally ready to implode, because without the without the release valve, I guess you would say, of inventory, then I am doomed to stay sober in this state of spiritual sickness until the release of the inventory that's on the paper, the release of the fifth step that's there, and then the ultimate release in 6 and 7, when God, in his mercy, again comes to my aid and removes these character defects that have been a part of me for so long. I don't even know they're there. They look right to me. They don't look right to you, but they look right to me. And I can't understand why you don't understand the way I am. So I couldn't control my emotional nature. And then the third question I was asked was, I prey to misery. Well, hell yes, I was prey to misery. I couldn't get along with anybody. I was constant collision. The only peace I may have got was maybe for like an hour or two when I was in a meeting. You know what I mean? Because I was in constant collision with everybody and everything, because I had no idea. It's really easy to see a drunk. They drink, they fall down, they're a pain in the ass and stuff like that. But when we're sober, we can be really stealth. You know what I mean? We can be really stealth and look like nice people and kind and all of that kind of stuff, when I'm really a calculating bastard below the surface. You know what I mean? Really always looking to get what I want. Really always looking to be better than, rather than be a part of. I'm really clear today. I'm so crystal clear that I am not the way I am because I drank and used drugs. That I drank and used drugs because of the way I am. Mm-hmm. And I know that is a very thin line to look at, but the fact of the matter is that if you take alcohol and drugs away from me, these bedevilments begin to become the primary source of my personality, and I get worse. And living this way, there's no way that I can stay in the sunlight of the Spirit. I will drink again if these are not treated. The only trouble is I can't treat them. And that's the danger of the externalization of Alcoholics Anonymous, and the influx of therapy, and the dependency on meetings, and the hero worship of sponsorship. What happened for me in that culture is that I did not reach out to a power greater than myself. It was all human power. When all the bullshit was stripped away, when I was no longer a part of the big group, and I was no longer a part of the, guru sponsor, and I was no longer a part of these things that I was dependent upon and thinking that I was doing in order to keep myself sober, I was landed into a void that really felt like I was going crazy. Because if I stopped doing the meetings, here's the test. If you stop going to meetings, if you stop talking to your supposed sponsor or whatever it is, your spiritual guide, if you have any type of false dependency, stop doing it and see if you can maintain. Because once all that stuff was stripped away from me, all I was these this massive ball of bedevilments. And that scared the crap out of me. So yes, I was definitely a prey to misery, and I was prey to depression. I was never clinically diagnosed, so let's not get into mental illness or anything like that. But you know what? One of the great things when I started to do this work, as it's outlined in the book, is they made me look up words. They made me look up words that I thought I already knew. But see, the problem with me is that I'm ignorant and arrogant. That means I don't know what I'm talking about, but I'm not going to know, so I'm going to pretend. And you know what? You can last a long time in Alcoholics Anonymous on a pretend experience, But let me tell you something. You can't even describe the magnitude of having a real experience. Take the time. Don't be a yes person. Look up words. I didn't know what depression meant. I didn't know that it meant that you have this feeling of being suppressed. And I didn't understand that everything that I left undone or everything that I did that I shouldn't have done was piling up on my soul and making it feel like I can't even get out of bed. You know? Because before I did this work, I was the classic victim. If I was depressed, it was because of something else or whatever. I never claimed any responsibility for myself or had even the ability to consider that, the calls were coming from inside the house. And so I was prey to misery. I was prey to depression. And I couldn't make a living because I thought, by the time Brian and I got down to number 5, I was, ready to snap back. And I said, well, I got a job. And he said, yeah, I bet you do. But does the money that you earn support your life? Are you happy with what you do? Do you get up in the morning feeling invigorated that you're doing what God intended you to do? I'm like a 2-hour waiter downtown LA and barely holding on to that, and the whole staff hates me. No, I'm not making a living. I am one more time, because I naturally am inclined not to be a spiritual seeker, suffering through trying to get through self-propulsion type of days with all of these bedevilments on my back. It says we had a feeling of uselessness. There is nothing worse, I think, in recovery than going to 7 meetings a week, having 7 service commitments, trying to do your best, and laying down at night and feeling like, why the hell am I here? What am I doing? Why has this happened to me? Why am I even sober? And I'm going to tell you, that's a long time to be in that space for 6.5 years. It's a long time. And it's hard. It says we were full of fear. Now, I thought the worst word in that was fear. Nope. Full. Because if you're full of fear, then you can't put nothing else in it. And I am telling you, I was walking around freaking terrified of myself, terrified of others, terrified. I always have this feeling when I'm untreated, like you're going to find out. I don't know what you're going to find out because I don't know, but I'm always afraid you're going to find out. And number 8, of course, is a big old slap in the face. We were unhappy, like no shit, right? Number 9 was really painful for me. It says, we couldn't seem to be of real help to other people. And that was a bedevilment that bothered me because I took the calls. And I took the, I was doing the version of AA that I was passed on, And unfortunately, I want to get mad when people don't do the right thing, or I'm suffering, or I may be, the thing. But Brian took that away from me. He said, Bill, don't be upset because you were misinformed by the misinformed. People can only pass on the information that they have. And you know what? I never asked the questions. I was asked to speak at an East Coast meeting later on in the week, and I was really, this bitch grilled me like a piece of steak at a summer barbecue. This format that they have is, as outlined in the book. So she wanted to know if I wrote 4th column inventory. She wanted to know if I had a sponsor. She wanted to know if I carry this message. She wanted to know if I had completed amends. She wanted to know if I have a practice in 10 and 11, and do I practice that practice? And for like 2 seconds, even though all the answers are yes in that for me, I was pissed off. I'm like, who is this bitch trying to tell me, interviewing me to be a speaker? But you know what? Thank God she did. And if you don't ask the right questions, if you are emotionally linked to your spiritual guide, if you have this kind of admiration because there's somebody in AA or they speak well at a meeting, you're in real big fucking trouble, pardon my French. You need to ask that person those questions. Did you write inventory? Have you seen your truth about alcohol? Do you have a God of your own understanding? Are you building that relationship? Have you written a 4th column inventory? Have you done a 5th step with another person? Are you trying to work on your character defects, or do you have a spiritual dependency on God, and are you asking him to remove those things? Have you made your amends? Are you living in the realm of spirit? Do you have a practice in 10 and 11? And you know what? If they get offended or they don't have the answers, move on. Because it's going to be a waste of your time. And it's going to be a waste of their time. Because you may be, by asking those questions, the person that wakes up somebody that thinks they're awake but are really asleep. And if you're not carrying this message to a real alcoholic, you're doing more damage than good. And I'm sorry if my message is strong, but it comes from many, many years of suffering and being misdirected. Granted, not in a victim state, because I was not asking the questions. I was not interested in doing the hard work. I thought that you could get this by association, assimilation, whatever, because I am a fake at the core of who I am. I will pretend to be whatever you want as long as I get the benefits of what you're talking about. I've never been one. You know, half measures avail us nothing. I still think that's a bad deal. I think we should get half. I'm just saying. So the 10th bedevilment we wrote in was an insane sex life. And of course, you know what? We could go into a whole meeting on that, but it's just the way it goes when you're selfish and you're looking for human power. Sex is one of the most powerful things that I've run into. And boy, have I tried to make that work. So at the end of these bedevilments, I was ready to take a look. I was ready to take a look at what this guy had as a solution, as, you know, that was so different. And the first thing that he told me is that he said, look, we're going to look at the disease. We're going to ask you some questions. We're going to take you through the book line by line, word by word. And what we're going to do is we're going to give you a gift. We're going to give you the gift of diagnosing yourself, for you to finally see the truth about what's going on with you so that you can then make the decision of whether you want to get well or not. And that was really important for me because I had people finger pointing to me for forever. What's wrong with you? You're crazy. You're this, you're that. And you know what? Sometimes I agreed, and sometimes, you know, the middle fingers went up and rebellion came out. Who cares, right? But I could never accept a program of recovery or a process or commit to anything as long as I was being diagnosed by an outside source. So I don't even, you know, when I work with people today, I don't even get into whether they're alcoholic or not. It's none of my business. It's my business to take them through this work so that they can find out for themselves. It's very clear in the book. If you have not answered that question for yourself, then please, you know what? Give me a call. I'll go through it with you. If you are not clear on step 1, step 2 through 12 is not going to matter. It's not going to matter. It's going to be like running in place on a freaking treadmill. You're going to sweat. You're going to put in a lot of work. You're going to think that you're somewhere. And chances are you'll either be in the exact same spot, exhausted and frustrated, or maybe 50 feet back and closer to a drink. Please take the time. I have been given a gift. Not only that God has removed the obsession, the mental obsession, the physical craving, all of that kind of stuff. God did that for me. I had nothing to do with it. But the second biggest gift I was given was to sit down with another spiritually awakened person who gave me the opportunity through patience and love and egoless service to guide me to a position to where I could see my truth about alcohol. And I'll tell you, that's a scary experience to have. If you really get the fact that you are completely powerless, then every single one of the 125 people that are on this Zoom meeting right now are living by grace. And if you sitting there and you're still thinking that you're disciplined and you're staying sober and you're doing the things you need to do to stay sober, let me give you a little demonstration of how much power you have right now. All at once, everybody, right now. Are you ready? Give some acknowledgement that you're ready. Come on, Terry. I see you shaking your head. Okay, if you have power and you're in charge, then I would like you to stop your heartbeat and your breath right now. Go. Do it. Okay, I don't, right? Right? So we're all living by grace. Can we agree like that? I mean, can we let that fill our bodies right now, that we are by grace? That if it was up to us, we would all be drunk or dead. And that we don't have really any power. Now, I know there's a few egomaniacs in the crowd that held their breath for a few seconds. I love you guys. You guys are awesome. You know what I mean? I see one guy turning blue while he's driving the car. That's good. But, you know, you know what? We need those experiences where we're confronted to really see how much power we have, because I thought powerless was going to feel bad. I thought powerless was going to feel awful. It doesn't. Because when I truly get in touch with the fact that I am completely powerless, I don't even control my heartbeat or my breath, then my whole entire being can be filled up with the knowledge and the understanding that I'm living by grace and grace alone. Grace is defined as an unearned gift. Kathy knows me from day one. From day one, running around, the both of us, Kathy K, right up there, that beautiful woman in the corner shaking her head with her hands up. We have been on this trip for fucking 30 years, and we were crazy, barefoot, running around in Hawaii, not knowing what the hell to do with ourselves. But just think about that for a moment. Think about the grace. And if we can be bestowed that type of grace on a moment-to-moment basis, then we don't have to be afraid. We don't have to be afraid of looking at our grosser handicaps. We don't have to be afraid of writing inventory. We don't have to be afraid of sitting down with another human being and illuminating every nook and cranny, every dark character, everything that we have. Think about the opportunity that you have if you haven't done it. It's like the ultimate refresh, right, Kathy? I mean, it's like, you know, it's like being filled with crap and taking a good dump and being free and clear and having your entire vehicle mentally, spiritually, and emotionally cleansed so that you can start again. Who wouldn't want that? Who would want to hold on to any of that shit? I would, because I need that to drink again. I need all that resentment to drink again. I need those unreasonable fears and inventory to drink again. I need to put myself out there in a disgusting, selfish, sexual way so that I feel bad and I can't look in the mirror. So that I never get to know that God's gift to me is my sex power and they're therefore good. I never get to experience, if I don't look at the first step, I never get to experience the power of a God that's personal to me, that's exempt from all kinds of religious or formal organizations, that I can formulate this living and this conscious relationship with the thing that made everything. And I can draw power from that. And I can go to him with my grossest handicaps, the things that I don't even think are wrong with me, that are hurting people and impairing my life. And I can ask them to be removed. It's kind of overwhelming when we really see the steps for what they are. Not just some stupid thing that we try to get through so that we can sound good at a meeting or we can brag that we did something, but really focused and conscious work to clear out this illness, to become somebody who's well and functional. Because for a long time in my sobriety, I didn't want to be well. Because then people were going to ask me to do shit. And I didn't want to do shit. I didn't want to be productive. I didn't want to be counted on. I liked being the screw up. I liked being the one that people gave $20 to and told, go away. That's what an entire psychic change is about. What I was like, I was an awful person. I was selfish and self-centered and delusional. It was very clear in my inventory that all the people that I hated hardly ever did anything real. That beautiful question that we get to ask, is this resentment fancied or real? Unfortunately, 99% of the resentments I wasted my life on were fancied. I made them up. I had to make you out to be evil so that I could run rampant and do whatever the hell I wanted to. My fears. We write down our fears. And then we ask that magic question, why do we have them? Shit, I never asked that question. My mind said, boo, I acted scared. That was the end of the story. You know what I mean? I didn't have freedom. I didn't have mobility. I didn't have courage. That's what the steps give you, is courage to challenge yourself. I have a great friend that just the other day spoke at a meeting on Tuesday night. And, we were sharing the podium at a conference in Long Beach on the Queen Mary. And she got up there, and she had on her, spiritual white dress, and she was doing all that kind of, she's just amazing, right? And Sydney said, the one thing that inventory gave her was the understanding that the calls were coming from inside the house. That I have such a powerful delusional mind that I make shit up, and the calls are always coming. I am the cause of my problems. And the greatest thing that I was ever told is that, yeah, the calls are coming from inside the house, but I don't have to answer. I mean, imagine another thing by doing these steps is that you don't have to be controlled by your own mind. It's the greatest freedom I have today. I will practice in 10 on my own watcher. Can you imagine that? This erstwhile erratic alcoholic doesn't need to be watched by a parent or a judge or a parole officer or anybody. I watch. And you know what? They tell you to watch, but they don't really tell you how. So I'm going to tell you, the watch is a great acronym. I watch my words, I watch my actions, my thoughts, my companions, and my habits. When those start sliding to shit, I know that I am not where I need to be. And it's a wonderful way to live. It's not like this self-obsession concern for yourself, but it's like this cooperative kind of watch to where it's like, oh, that's not really in line with what I'm about. That's not, you know what I mean? And then you get to look at it. And step 10 isn't a self-obsession, notebook kind of bound, let's rewrite the day kind of stuff. Because I have a disease that is present, that is active, that is watching for every opportunity to get me. It's kind of like that gross fisherman in that insurance commercial, where he goes, you got $1, and it's constantly putting out bait for me. The only problem is that if I'm in a vulnerable state where I bite into that bait, I don't know how long I'm going to be on that hook. So it's better to avoid the bait entirely, to be able to see it and to be able to turn to God and say, hey, look, this shit has cropped up. Please remove it at once. And then I have a responsibility. I have a responsibility to talk to somebody else about it, make amends if someone's been hurt, and then turn my attention. See, that's a very important thing. Turn my attention, because my life and my being and my character is all going to be about what my attention is on. And if my attention is on being of service to God and to my fellow man, really, what kind of day am I going to have? Fucking outstanding. Outstanding. You know what I mean? So I'm kind of all over the map, but I hope the celebration part is, kind of coming through, because there's a lot to celebrate with each step. There's this amazing gift, in 11, to where I can sit and I can feel the presence of God, because there's no obstruction. You know what I mean? That I am a channel. I am a channel to come when somebody comes and speaks here. I don't depend on myself. My friend Franny Smith just had 50 years, and she's an amazing person in Redondo Beach. And she gave me years ago the speaker's prayer. And I get on my knees and I'm like, God, fill my mouth with good things and nudge me when I'm done. And that's about as fancy as it gets. You know what I mean? Because this isn't about me improving myself. Alcoholics Anonymous is not about self-help. I have a disease through which only a spiritual experience will conquer. Therapy is not going to help me. Therapy may help me after I'm awake and after I am well. Can we say that without everybody freaking out? Because, we love to use the word recovered. And everybody, do you understand that people who stand up in meetings and say, my name's Bill, I'm a recovered alcoholic, get more shit than people who stand up and say they just beat their wife, or they're on their 6th marriage, or they just got fired from their job because they embezzled? It is really, I mean, one of the things that I hope that you celebrate is that if somebody stands up and has the nerve in Alcoholics Anonymous to say, my name's Bill, I'm a recovered alcoholic, maybe instead of condemning them or rolling their eyes, maybe we should walk up and say, hey, congratulations, what did you do? Maybe we should support people who carry a message, who say, you know what, through the steps of Alcoholics Anonymous, I'm spiritually awake, I'm effective with God, I'm effective with other people, I'm happy, I'm balanced. I mean, I can tell you what happened in my life this morning. You know what I mean? If you really want to know, I woke up in a great mood, not wanting to kill myself, not craving alcohol. I'm in the best shape I've had been in God. What, Kathy? Like forever, right? Right? Like 2 years ago, I had a triple bypass, and then I took up bodybuilding, and I had my first showcase in November. You know what I mean? One of the things that I'm super grateful for, because I've always been like rebellious. You can tell I'm not the type of person to fall in line easily. So I was having this conversation because I still have some of this rebellion when it comes to 10 and 11, because I hate the feeling that I'm imposed with something I have to do forever. I don't know why. Even though it brings me like great joy and balance and mental clarity, I don't give a shit about that. Just the fact that I have to do it forever makes me nuts. So I'm talking to my sponsor who lives in Texas, and he's this quiet little man. You know, it's so funny how we get the orchestration of opposites in Alcoholics Anonymous. He's this quiet little man who won't argue with me or whatever. And I said, you know what? I'm really starting to rebel. I don't want to do my practice. I just feel like, you know, I've been here for 33 years. I'm 33 years sober. I should get like a vacation or be able to do it the way I want to, when I want to. And he said, Bill, the greatest gift in 10 and 11 is the fact that you will always be ready and you will never have to get ready. Is that okay with you? That you can wake up every day and be ready and not have to get ready. And in that moment, I got it. I woke up ready this morning. I'm ready to do this conference. I woke up ready to whatever God puts in front of me, whether it's quarantine, whether it's, you know what I mean? Whatever it is, whether it's heart surgery, whether it's going to the gym at 2 o'clock, whether it's loving and understanding my partner, I am ready. And I'll tell you, there's 2 things that I represent today, especially to newcomers. One is that an entire psychic change is possible. And 2, that the power of God makes anything possible. Because they hear my story, we go way more in depth than I did here, but Kathy knows me for 33 years, and she can absolutely tell you that neither of us are the same person that when we came to Alcoholics Anonymous. And neither of us are the same person since we committed and did the work as outlined in the book. That's when the real miracle happened. So if you're sick and suffering in Alcoholics Anonymous, get with somebody who has the nerve to stand up in Alcoholics Anonymous and say that they are recovered. Because you may find a spiritually awakened person who holds the key to everything that's contained within the first 164 pages of this book. And if you can't find somebody, then call me or call Kathy or call, just submit it to prayer and that person will appear. So congratulations on saving the log cabin. I hope it's there for many years to come. And you guys are beautiful, and thank you for listening. And if you need me, everything I have belongs to you. So call me and I will give it away. Thanks.
Thank you.